Hey, this is Matthew Jennings, and on this episode of Peachjar Extra Credit, it is super special. We're here at the National Conference in gorgeous Bellevue, Washington. I am joined by Lesley Bruinton, and we are talking about cybersecurity communications.
Yep.
Stay tuned. Lesley, thank you so much for taking time out of this busy conference to do this with me. I always love my time with you, and I feel like I need to just have my phone and just start taking notes as you're speaking. So I'm going to try to restrict myself from doing that this time. But I know we're here at the National Conference. It's super busy. Small caveat, I see they just pulled a bunch of food out over here to the left.
We're good for now.
It could get really busy.
Yep.
So if you hear a lot of noise, stick with us. We're gonna look pretty fun here. We're going to look pretty cool.
All
right. So if you wouldn't mind, though, let's just start with a little bit of yourself, your background, and what you're doing now.
So I'm a former television reporter turned school public relations practitioner. I worked in a school system in Alabama for 12 years before I had the opportunity to lead this association back in 2020, 2021 at the National School Public Relations Association. Then I left working in schools to work in consultancy, did that for a little bit, and then last fall I decided to start my own company. So here we are.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And you did a pre-session
I did.
On cybersecurity and communications.
Yes.
It's incredibly intriguing. So I'd love to dig into that a little bit. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us, and I think we're going to even be able to link to some really invaluable resources here, so you'll want to watch the description really closely. We'll talk about that. So kind of walk me through what this whole pre-session was about.
So I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Julie Evans from Project Tomorrow and a group of chief information officers and chief technology officers trying to help schools develop toolkits and understand how to respond and prepare for cybersecurity issues. This is a big topic, Matthew, that a lot of people are concerned about, and maybe not enough people in the district. We usually leave the tech stuff to the technology directors, and we think everything is fine until it's not, and then we're concerned.
Yeah.
The technology directors really want partnership with other personas in the district. So the work that the National Advisory on Cybersecurity for Education did was compiling a toolkit for different personas. What is the superintendent interested in? What is the risk management, risk assessment people? What do they care about? What does finance care about? What does HR care about? What does communications care about? So the toolkit was really designed for a technology director to receive this and go have these conversations with their coworkers about. It's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
For sure. Here's why you should care about this particular cybersecurity issue.
Wow, and we can link back to that resource.
Absolutely, it's a free resource. Super excited to be a part of that. Was part of a team of the chief information and chief technology officers, and was the only school communicator invited to be a part of that. That's
really cool. That's awesome. Well, we're happy to benefit from your partnership in that project. So talk to me about some of the concerns, like what should I be worried about?
One of the things that we heard from the communications practitioners that convened a focus group to learn their perspectives and talk to school communicators who had experienced cybersecurity issues. What were the challenges for you in the aftermath? Were you brought in early enough? Did leadership bring you to the table to be a part of the solution making? And sometimes no. Yeah. Sometimes the decisions were made in another room and the communicator was asked to bring that to bear. And it makes it really difficult. I have a colleague, we have a colleague that says, don't ask me to land the plane if you didn't let me board it. So when does communications need to be involved and what will their role be? The thing that was most jarring to me from our technology friends is there's huge fear that if a cybersecurity issue has a breach, they're getting fired. I never thought about that, and I can think about as a communicator, if they have a crisis, who's going to be upset with me.
Yes.
But I never thought about, will I lose my job? And that's a real fear for our technology friends.
No way.
Yeah, it really was. And so this is a proactive tool that you'll be able to go and talk to your colleagues. There's different things, a list of things for the different personas. What do we need to do as school communicators? For example, one of the things that I think is really important is that if you have some sort of cybersecurity breach where your communications channels are knocked out, you need to be thinking about what will your backup communications methods be.
Yes. Like, so what are some of those considerations? I know in California, we've been trained that, for example, we have a large earthquake and the cell service goes down. Many times, the old SMS text for iPhone users, when it goes green, many times that network will still be open. So you might at least be able to reach out via that. Or another thing that was suggested to me by an emergency operations manager was to make sure you have a contact outside of the state, because you might not be able to communicate within the state, but you might be able to send text messages or communicate outside the state. So I actually had partnered with another partner, a PIO person outside the state who I trusted, and gave them access to some of my systems. So if I needed to reach out and have them put some emergency messaging out on social media or something like that, they would be able to do that for me. So what are some of those things that we need to think through? I love that
idea. I hadn't thought of that one. One of the things that I did was I wanted to make sure that all my passwords weren't just locked away in my computer. It's really easy to use those passkeys, and you don't remember those passwords. And I know our technology friends are saying la 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 la.
Yeah, but if you got to log in on somebody else's device because yours is broken or otherwise.
Yeah. Or if you can't even log in at all. Yeah. So what I would do was I had my passcodes and all of those things. I put them in a red folder, took it home, and put it inside of my china cabinet in a place that I don't go into too often. Yeah. That I could access so that I would be able to utilize those systems. Another thing that I recommended is having a backdoor entrance to your website. So what if your school system utilizes a single sign-on? If they're using a single sign-on technology and a single sign-on goes out, how do you update anything connected to it?
Right.
You can't.
No.
So, yeah.
What do you mean by a backdoor? Like, how does that work?
I would use a different email address that's not connected through your single sign-on to be able to access your website.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because a lot of times when you call your web content provider and you need help on that support number, they're authenticating through your usernames, right? So if they can't figure out who you are, you're just J-Doe at schoolsystem.com. They may not be able to authenticate you. If you had another email address that's connected, they could authenticate you through that.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. Can you talk to me a little bit about what are you touched on it, I think, but just some of the other resources that are in that like 80-page document? Like, kind of what is that? What does it entail? What does it have for us?
It has 3 different levels of concerns for all of these different. We use the word persona, so you'll hear me talk about that a lot. So what do you do on before it happens? What do you do when the event is active? And what do you do after the fact? How does it escalate through? So it's a great read. You wouldn't even, honestly, as a communicator, wouldn't have to read the whole 80-page document. You're just looking for your persona and seeing what needs to happen. Through the National School Public Relations Association, we did a pre-seminar just this past weekend, and we were able to work with the General Accounting Office, which counts things for the federal government. One of the things they're counting are cybersecurity issues. So
what was that data, do you know?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, here's the thing. People think that it's kind of the thing no one wants to talk about. We've been breached. And so you don't share this information because it can be seen as deeply embarrassing that you were the one that, said that you would help out the friends from the other nation access the $3 million in the bank account, right? Like, nobody wants to admit that kind of thing. You fell for it too? Did you get it? Did you get the $3 million?
No, still waiting.
Oh, still waiting. Yeah. Funny how that happened, right?
Don't click the link.
Yeah, don't click the link. So no one wants to admit those kinds of things, and you certainly don't want to admit that you've been breached. We do talk about being transparent with your community. Some of that transparency maybe include if student information or employee information has been breached and is on the dark web, what are your responsibilities for letting folks know about that? And I worked with a technology director that would often say, where do you find X number of clean Social Security numbers? The local school system. Wow. So the school systems have a lot of data on children.
Wow, that's a good point.
And a huge responsibility to safeguard that to those students and their families.
Really good point.
So conversely, you have a huge responsibility to let people know if something has gone awry with it. Another thing that we learned in talking to our communications friends that had cybersecurity issues was that folks you've never seen will show up. New lawyers will show up. New insurance agents will show up, and they will all have protocols about what you can say and what you can't say. And so even if your posture as a district has been to be very open and transparent, Your attorneys are going to be looking at your liabilities and what you say, and they may script a lot of your messages, and it may be different than what you are typically releasing to your community.
Yeah.
You can still be transparent with them that, hey, this is what we know so far. We're limited in what we can release, but when we have more information, we'll share it. And as you have updates, you're able to do so.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, I want to go back and talk about the redundancy of communications channels. I once in my career experienced a tornado that hit 3 of our schools. Part of that was it knocked out our telecommunications platform. So we were not able to communicate in the way we would typically communicate. We think a lot about crisis as a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. Now we're having to think about crisis as a cybersecurity. So if you don't have access to your communications channels, what channels would you use? And how would your families know and validate that the fact that they are legitimately channels, that they're that someone's not spoofing the school system, right? So if you are not able to access your website because you've been locked out because of single sign-on and you need to communicate something, or if one of your favorite social media platforms gets taken over by someone and hacked, what do you use? And, you know, one of the really cool things that I think about, you know, the service that you guys have at Peachjar with that email distribution list, it is a communications channel that families and staff are familiar with already because you're using it to send flyers home. In a crunch, if you needed to pivot, you could pivot and use it for mainline communications.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've seen it, you know, some districts that have gone through those natural disasters where they get down to the level of, well, we don't have school tomorrow, and the only way we're going to let everybody know is knock on doors.
Yeah.
Or radio. Radio in times of emergency, a lot of times if cell service goes down, you still might have success with the local AM or FM radio stations.
Ham radio operators,
operators, yeah. That's all ways that I've heard districts dealing through national disasters have been able to effectively communicate, even though their main systems were down. You bring up a really good point in the redundancy and leaning into other channels that you do have access to still. That's great.
And, you know, in the case of your website, you no longer have access to your website to be able to change things on it. If you have those redundancies built into your web page and telling people that in the event of emergency, if these go out, we're moving to this radio station or what have you, that could be helpful too, because other people may still be able to see your website. You just can't edit it.
Yeah.
So by then it's too late.
Yeah.
What I would say, Matthew, is that it's going to be really important that while things are nice and calm and you can have access to your website and you don't have a cyber breach, really think through how you would respond. If this is an exercise that only you can do by yourself and you don't have colleagues that are working with you just yet on this because this isn't their concern, think through what those redundancies are. Think through how you would respond. But the good news is, in our work, we were able to identify a resource that the federal government created that is a tabletop exercise on cybersecurity for education.
Oh, wow.
So you don't have to look at some other tabletop exercise and think about how would I translate this into a school environment.
Here's a real one.
The federal government's already done that. So lots of resources exist that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, that you can train the trainer, train yourself, study up on it, go to your superintendent, talk to the administrative team and say, hey, if we have space in a meeting, I'd love to be able to talk about these issues.
That is awesome. Well, I know I've taken a lot of your time. This is incredible, and we will link to these resources in the description. But before I let you go, is there anything that we haven't talked about in regards to this that you would share, or last-minute thoughts?
Last-minute thoughts. Life is great. I mean, I've really had a lot of fun talking to so many communicators here at the annual seminar and seeing what those challenges and opportunities they're facing. But I think that we are very proud to be a part of a very resilient community.
Yeah.
That maybe that we have colleagues here that had a rough school year last year, right? And yet they're back here right now trying to rejuvenate themselves, get ready for a brand new school year.
Yes.
And know that you aren't alone. I mean, if you need help, reach out. You know, there are people in this profession who are willing to be a shoulder to cry on or be a thought partner, which is equally as important.
Absolutely. And speaking of people that are here to help, like Give me a website. Where do I go to seek you out if I need to get some more Lesley Bruinton in my life?
Absolutely. So I'm excited to be a part of School Spirit PR. This is a brand new company that I opened in fall of 2023, a full service communications firm really designed to help school leaders promote the good things that are happening in education through strategic communication. And doing so, we want to do that by making sure that we're inspiring trust and engaging the community and navigating conflict. So if you're interested, like to learn more, maybe we'll partner. Visit schoolspiritpr.com.
Led by an accredited public relations professional and guru. Thank you very, very much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. This is always a pleasure to sit and talk with you, and I'm actually really excited about the toolkit myself. And I love when they're laid out like that by kind of the roles and responsibilities, and a before, during, and an after that always just clicks with me. And I don't know, it just seems the easiest way for me to digest. So hopefully you find that helpful. Definitely check that out in the description. Be sure to like, share, comment, and follow for more. I know for an absolute fact you can reach out to either one of us, including Lesley, with any questions you might have. She'd be happy to answer them. So that's it for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rock.
Appreciate
Have a good one.
it. Bye.
We'll see you.